Hello everyone, welcome back to part 3 of the Moonlight Hares. Today we're going to finish the picture and we're going to include some toadstools, mushrooms, things like that. And I was just showing you some weird bits you find in the wool when you're working with it. This is nice for the background and stuff. It's not really simple. All I'm doing is looking or deciding where the light is going to hit the tops of these little banks of grass and things, and obviously making it lighter there. And then I shall make it darker because I'm seeing the front as like a little hill. You'll see as I go along. But because this is still a fantasy and I'm not going into massive amounts of detail, apart from what I've done on the hares, the ground is all going to be like blobs of colour. You'll see what I mean as I go. So this is will be lovely. This is a great one to have a go at if you fancy trying something a little bit more technical, because there's very little actual detail, as you'll see in this, and I'm just picking colours and blobbing them on, because on my head what I'm visualising is little blobs of moss and things rather than like a blanket of grass. Obviously you can do whatever you want, but this is what makes it nice and simple. And you'll see I'm not being anything too detailed on any of this. And I'm fortunate because I have different coloured greens and things because of what I do. But you could do the same effect even if you've only got a couple of greens or something. Just mix them together and mix them with other colours. You can be, especially with this picture, it's a little bit fantasy, so you can be quite creative. So you could mix your greens with purples, whatever you've got. Just keep it subtle so the green is the main, in general, the main colour. But mix any colours you like together and just plop them on the ground. I'm always technical, as you know, so that's what I would do. And who's to criticise you, because it's a fantasy picture, so you can't go wrong whatever you do. And that even applies to the hares, because you're not aiming for necessarily an absolutely realistic picture. So even if your hairs were slightly off, who's to say that's wrong? And here I'm just mixing all whatever greens I've got. I'm not mixing them well, I'm just bunching them together so that when I come to lay them down, I have a random mix of colours. So as you can see, it's very technical, not very hard to do. So just keep blobbing any colours you've got together, pull them apart like I'm doing so that you mix them very roughly, and then just put them down and you'll have some lovely little shades and effects. I didn't want it right on the bottom edge because that's going to be dark, so there's no point in wasting my wool down there. But you can see what I mean, how dappled it is, and I've done nothing. I'm giving away my secrets now. This was a nice picture to do because I didn't have to think too hard about the details and things. It was kind of like a palette cleanse for me. It was a lot of fun to do and less stress than some of the others I've done. This is why I think it would be good for uh, you know, someone who's a little bit more confident but still not sure about what they're doing. Like you see again there, I've done the same with the darker colour, just mix some darker the greens. Again, so if you've only got a few greens, mix them with some blacks and browns and do the same with that and just plop them on. Well, I'm thinking about it actually. If you're watching this video when it more or less when it comes out before Christmas 2024, then I have if you go into my comments section, I have got a poll going. It's a vote for what I'm going to do as the Christmas picture. So if you want to go and have a say in what the picture is going to be for Christmas, go and have a look on the community section. Sorry, it's in the community section. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to the footage of me doing the toadstools. I've pushed a button, but clearly it wasn't the correct one. But you can see me making this one and some more, so you won't have missed out on how I've done them. I don't know what happened to that footage. On these, I've actually used the red, a red mixed, the same red mixed with a little bit of blacks just for the shading. And I did happen to have, I don't know where I got it from, I think it was in a cheap packet of wool from a normal shop, a little bit of like orangey red which I used on it as well, and that was just to, you'll see, if you can see where the glowy bits look, that's actually a bit more orange. But these are really easy to do, and then there's just some beige and a little bit dark brown for these stalks. And I've laid over the top very, very thinly. It's not white, it's actually a very light creamy colour, because I didn't want white because I didn't want it to sort of compete with the moon itself. I know that sounds weird, but I didn't want them so bright that the moon, I want the brightest part of the picture is what I'm trying to say to be the moon. So I didn't want to put a lot of white on the actual mushrooms. I couldn't help myself with the dots. I wasn't sure whether to put them in or not, and then I put in on one and it sort of took over. But I like them, so. This is the only strand of white I'm actually using on the mushrooms, apart from the dots. I'm contradicting myself now. And it's just the very edge to catch the moonlight, very thin. I'm actually doing this voiceover at 4 o'clock in the morning, so if I gabble or make weird mistakes, that's what it is. My dogs woke me up, so I'm up now. So this stalk is literally done with, I've got, as you can see, the colour is a medium brown, and I've got a tiny streak of dark brown going down the back, and then I highlight it on the edge with the same creamy beige colour that I pull very, very thinly on the top just as a little tiny edge because I want the stalks to stand out from the grass. It makes them a little bit more 3D. I say grass, it's moss. And don't forget the link to the picture is in the description box below as well if you want to use it. But this picture, really, you can just use it as a basis for an idea, because as I said in the last one, you don't have to do these toadstools. You could have a fairy sitting on a rock. You could have anything you like. You don't need to do the hares. You could make a fantasy creature up if you want to, or put in a fox. So if you use this picture just as an idea, you've got a lot of scope as, to play around with it. When I was actually working on the toadstools, I was thinking about putting a little tiny fairy sitting on top of the big toadstool that's on the, well, behind my hand, that one, the big one. I was thinking about putting a little fairy sitting on that, but I thought by the time I'd done it, the picture was going to get a bit too crowded, a bit too busy, so I left it out. But that's what you can do, you know, as an idea. Or you could have a, underneath my sleeve, that corner on the left hand side where I am now, you could have a little mouse looking out of a hole. That's another one. Oh, I'm on now. I'm going to have to leave my picture alone now, finished it, not stop, keep thinking of ideas. This is just a touch of shade because if the moon's that bright, then you are going to have a little bit of shadow. I've just taken some of the red that was on the mushrooms here and I just spread it out really, really thinly so you can see through it, and just laid it on, just add a bit of different colours in the foreground. Again, here's where you can have some fun. So if you've got a pack of colours from somewhere and you've got all different colours in there, then use a few of those and just put a bit around. So I'm actually going to do some little purple mushrooms. I keep saying mushrooms. I'm actually doing some purple toadstools. And it's done in the same way. I've got a dark purple on the base colour, and then this is actually a touch of pink that I've put on there. And then I will do the same thing with the beigey white, just give it a little edge round it so it stands out, and a teeny stalk. But whatever colours you've got, just use them, have some fun. The only thing I would say about if you're adding bits like this is don't make them too brighter colours because it'll detract from you wanting to look at the hairs if you go for really, really bright things. You can see the mess I work in here. And this is only a bit of it. You have to blame it on the artist in me. Well, at least that's my excuse anyway. So when it comes to doing these mushrooms and things like that, all you've got to think about is that you need a dark colour, a medium colour and a light colour to make the mushroom. That's it. And obviously in this little streak of white or cream that you're going to put around it. There's nothing technical about the mushrooms at all. They look really complex, but as long as you put the dark colour sort of at the bottom where the light wouldn't get it, your medium colour is in general, put that first, then put your dark colour where the light wouldn't really hit it, and put a little bit of a lighter colour at the top. You'll get the shaded look. But you can do that with any colour. Like I say, I have the purple and I added a bit of pink. I could have added some pink to some blue and done it that way. So get a little bit creative, and if you're not sure of your colours and things like that, just have some fun and try different ones. You'd be surprised what works well together. And as it's a fantasy picture, as I said before, you can't go wrong really. And let's be honest, if Jackson Pollock can throw paint at a wall and call it art as well, then really you can have fun and do anything you like with this. Sorry for any Jackson Pollock fans. So this is just a muted orangey brown mushroom. It's the same orange I used on the Toadstools to make it look a bit more like a highlight. And then the brown I've put on it, I happen to have a little bit of reddy brown, but you could have used the same brown I used for the stalks. And not all of them have to even have stalks, because obviously sometimes when you look at mushrooms, they're coming out the ground, you can't see the stalks yet, so you don't have to worry about making sure every single one has a stalk on it. But this little highlight of creamy white is quite important, because otherwise they just get lost in the ground. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and a subscribe if you like what you're watching. I have some other pictures coming up before Christmas. I've got a Halloween one that I actually did back in about July, and I love it, it's great. And I also have a beginner's Halloween one, and I'm not sure after that. I think there's a beginner puppy, and then I'm hoping to do a seascape before Christmas, and then whatever everybody likes and votes for in the community tab will be the Christmas picture. So I've got quite a few coming up, and there might be other odds and ends as well, depending on if I have the time. So don't forget to subscribe, because otherwise you'll miss out on those. Now this stalk here is actually being done with my all-time favourite colour for painting, the pewter colour that I did the hares with and things. I told you I use it for everything. I just fancied a bit of a change. It works for absolutely just everything. It's a fab colour. So I thought I'd use it for these stalks down here, just to give a bit of variety. One day I'll have to have a go at seeing if I can do an entire picture in just that colour. I feel like I'm back at art college now. didn't highlight these mushrooms quite as much because obviously they're on the other side of the bank and they wouldn't really catch the moonlight even. So obviously you'll have to judge how many things you want at the front. As long as you keep them not too bright, you could get away with quite a bit, but you just don't want to make it look really, really busy. It's a fine line between having enough and having too much. So if you need to, just step back every so often and have a look and assess what you think of it. It works quite well to actually step away from the picture, take a moment or two, and then have a look at it, or take a photograph and look at the photograph, and sometimes you can see things on that way that you wouldn't see just sitting there working at it, because all the time you're sitting with it you stop seeing things. I can't explain what I mean really, but you get so engrossed in the picture that you actually don't see the whole thing. So sometimes it's worth stepping back and having a look from a distance. And here I'm just adding a little bit of the darker green just here and there very faintly, just so that it gives a little bit of shadow as well on the moss. And I did realise that I didn't have much of a shadow for the hair, having put shadows everywhere else, so I added a little bit of darkness here, which was good because it actually made that mushroom, I keep saying mushroom, made that toadstool pop a bit more. This is why I like to work from the back to the front, because I really don't like having to work around things, and if I'd thought about it in good time I could have put the shadow in and then not had to work around the mushroom. Oh, toadstool. Sorry. Anyway, the thing. I think at this point I'll just call it whatever it is. I obviously should have had a cup of coffee before I started this. And what I'm doing here is, because I want the toadstool to stand out, I'm putting dark where it's light. So the dark on the ground makes the light parts of the toadstool stand out, and I did put just a little bit of light where the dark part of the toadstool is, and that helped to pull that forward as well. And now along the bottom I've got the same blue that I did the sky with, and I'm literally just going to put it right around the edges here because I want to frame the picture in a way with the colour, and I wanted it to be dark at the bottom. I don't know, actually, talking of frames, when I come to put this in something, whether all this will get covered up, but as I always, I don't know what I'm going to do, so I'll make sure I do everything to the edges. But I think this gave a bit of depth to the picture as well by putting this darker colour back around the bottom, and it ties the picture together because I haven't really used that dark blue anywhere else. Yeah, here I'm not even being technical, I'm just blobbing some bits on. I was trying to make it look less like dot to dot along the bottom, but just put a few bits on. You don't have to do this, but you could have left it, it was fine. Just make sure you felt everything in well. Go over your picture and make sure everything's felted down best you can, because when you layer it up like this it's easy to miss a bit, so just take your time and go back over the picture if necessary. It's also worth having a look around the picture in general and make sure there aren't any areas where you can see the felt that you're felting onto through, because sometimes I'll find where I've done like around the hairs, the very edge of the hair, in places you might be able to see the, in my case, green through, where you're felting it pulls it away from each other, the two lots of felt away from each other, and sometimes you can get little lines and little patches. So before you finish the picture completely, just have a look over it and see if there's any bits you just need to fill in. Now when I decided I've finished this picture, what I will do is I will turn the whole picture over and just trim the wall from around the edges. I'm not actually going to cut into the felt itself that I'm felting onto, I'm just going to trim the fluffy bits from the edges so it tidies that up. And then I will flip it over as well and I will trim the fronts, just scooping off, I think I'll show you a little bit here, any of the long bits that you are still sticking out. I really can't be perfect, you can't get it all, but I like to try and get some of the fluffy stuff there you can see it falling off, because to me it doesn't matter how much I needle felt it down, there's still bits that fluff up like that, so I try and get rid of some of it. I don't go berserk, I just do my best to get rid of some of it. And then that's really your picture finished. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This is the last obviously in this one, and I will look forward to seeing you next Friday with the new one, which I'm hoping will be the beginner's Halloween. So have a lovely time, enjoy your pictures, enjoy your needle felting, and I will see you next time, and thank you for joining me. Bye for now.